So records for us three reactions to disasters which occurred at the onset of civilization. The first is Olam Harishon. He is driven from Gan Eden. He discovers his mortality. He has a son that's a murderer and another son that is murdered. So his reaction as portrayed in the Torah is simply to give up on life. He goes into a long period of separation. I guess we would call it depression. He doesn't do anything. We don't hear from him. Then he has a child, Chase. So the child is almost an accidental child. And we don't see him influencing any of the generations that come. We don't see him as a grandfather. We don't see him as a teacher. Somehow he disappears off the map. And that's true until the day that he no longer was alive. So he lived a long time. But somehow his influence is not felt in the recordings of the Torah. So that's one reaction to disaster. Simply to give up. I remember that there were certain people who went through the Shoah and they gave up. And there were those that, I remember one case vividly that they said that they never were going to have children again. They're not going to do it over again. So apparently that's a natural reaction to destruction. There were Jews that emigrated to the farthest corners of the earth because they didn't want to be involved again in anything. So they thought that's the safeguard. The second one the Torah talks about is Noah. The Gemara says, Olam b'vinyono, Olam b'churbono, Olam b'vinyono. He saw an established world, the world that existed before the Mabul. He saw that world destroyed. And then he saw another world built after the Mabul. So his reaction is a physical one. That's what it means, Ayita Karen, that he planted a vineyard. After seeing that everything can be destroyed, so he wanted to create, so to speak, a secure future for himself and his sons. So he wanted to build a safe haven, his own vineyard. The symbol of vineyard is the pleasures of society. Because now he had wine. So his reaction to the destruction is to build what he thinks is a secure and pleasant world. And he'll be able to function in it. Noach, that's what it means, Vayochel Noach Isho Adomo. He saw the rebuilding of the world as a physical thing. Only through the physicality of the vineyard would society be rebuilt, and would he himself and his progeny be able to function. So that's a second reaction. The first reaction is to run away from everything. The second one is to rebuild physically. The third person that we're going to spend a great deal of time talking about is our father Abraham. So he sees a world destroyed. Asor Doros Minoach Var Abraham, the 10 generations, and they are in the midst of this physical world, which is symbolized by the Tower of Babel and by the whole attitude. Builders want to build a skyscraper. And then he is thrown into the furnace. When he emerges, he comes to build a spiritual world. Because, as he points out, that's the only world that lasts. All the physical worlds eventually collapse. They're all destroyed. And it's only the ideas, the inspirations of humans that survive time. And Avraham Avinu comes to construct that world. And that's what Rabbanu Shalom says to him, L'man Yitzav es bonov es beiso acharov. He doesn't promise him a physical strength. He promises him Eretz Yisrael. but he doesn't say it's going to be a great empire. But it's Laman Yitzhak as one of those Beso Acharot to inject into the world ideas, spirit, something that outlasts the physicality of things. Chazal phrased it pithily when they said, "Kein lanu shiur elo haTorah azos." The only thing that lasts is the Torah, meaning the ideas last, the books last. Everything else is subject to time and circumstance and what happens to it. I saw a great article that compared the best-selling books of the 1950s in the Western world to today's best-selling books. So today's best-selling books are all about depression. Psychology, depression, how to parent, how to do this, how to do that. In the 1950s, the books were about ideas. Some of the ideas were wrong, but the books were not of practical value, quote unquote, but had within themselves a loftier goal. And that's what Avraham Avinu injects into the world. That's the idea of the bracha he's going to give to Yitzchak. Yitzchak will give to Yaakov and to the Shvatim. Those are all spiritual things. No one can take away from you your spiritual side. The physical side is always vulnerable. It always is subject to change. So in the article, he had the comparison of what the safe stocks were in the 1950s. So everybody, you bought your grandmother AT&T. And what the stocks are today. So if you would have hung on to the original stocks that existed, U.S. Steel, etc., you'd be impoverished. Wouldn't keep up with the rate of inflation. Because you're investing in physical things. And physical things are doomed to end after a period of time. But the spirit, Chazal said that regarding the Sefer Torah of Rav Chanina ben Tradja, really nisrafim. The parchment, the physical part, can be destroyed. But osios porchos ba'avir, the letters, the ideas, they're not, you can't touch them. They float in the heaven. They're always there. So the Torah showed us this progression of how Adam Rishon reacted, how Noah and his children reacted, and how Avraham Avinu reacted. And that's why the Torah says, Bihi borom, al tikre bihi borom elo be'Avraham. The beginning of the story is really Avraham Avinu, because he injects something which is eternal, cannot be destroyed. The Gemara in Bava Basra about Munvaz HaMelech, who was a non-Jewish ruler here in the Middle East. His mother was Elni Amalka, the great Queen Aline. So Munvaz, in a year of famine, opened up the treasury, and he gave everyone sufficient funds to survive. And when his ministers complained to him, so he said, Avosai gonzu lamato ani gonasti lamalo. My forefathers saved things for this world, but I have saved people, ideas, souls. That's lamalo, that's up there. That no one can take from me. And that's the whole introduction to mitzvahs in the Torah. It's the whole introduction to the Oros. Is that this is their reaction. They are building another world. And this other world will be eternal and will last. After the Shoah, that happened to us too. The great Rabbonim, Talmidei Chachomim, both in the exile and here in Eretz Yisrael, built for themselves a world of Torah. So even though they were mocked for so doing, their world is still here. So all of this should be taken into account, because the book of Bereshis is a Sefer Tolos Sodom. It's a book about us. We look at things and our spirit and what our goals should be. Rabbi Chananya ben Akash, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, V'zakoses Yisrael aficha chibur lahem Torah mitzvot shenemar Adonai chavetz aman tzidko yagdil Torah v'yadir.